figured out how to make college football 25 more exciting by shaking up the conferences and the divisions. I went with even teams, even number of teams on every conference. Also, changing the stadiums that some conferences play in to add a little bit more spark to college football 25 since we can't add in teams without taking out teams. So I went with the even number on the American Conference, removing University of Texas, San Antonio, the Roadrunners. I think I'm saying the team name right. And I added in Air Force from the Mountain West, which will go right because it will have Air Force, Army, and Navy all in the same division. So that will make good for rivalry competition. As you know, Memphis and Tulane said they're not leaving, and UAB is a good addition also with USF. So you got 4, 8, 12, 14 teams, and I thought, hey, why don't I put them in the Caesar Superdome so they can play in New Orleans? It's pretty neutral site for this conference, and it will be a big deal to help this conference out. Also playing in the NFL stadium, a major NFL stadium like the Caesar Superdome. So the American Conference right now is a legit conference, a fun conference to play with, and it'll probably be good for the college football playoff shakeup. Let's move over to the ACC. Moving over to the ACC, I kind of filtered out teams that I felt like should not have been in there. But as you see, for a 12, 16 teams. SMU, I really prefer SMU to stay in the conference because they look more like an ACC team, even with the logo and everything about the college feel. They feel like an ACC team. I mean, they give you the feel of Pitt, Virginia, Wake Forest. So I added in UConn from Independent because UConn looks and gives you that feel of an ACC team. If you want to, you can add in Notre Dame, but I am a Notre Dame fan. I prefer to stay independent because we have a lot of rivals, and playing 8 ACC games will affect us playing a lot of them rivalry games. It will also help, though, if Notre Dame was to lose like 2 or 3 games, we wouldn't be booted out of the college football playoffs. So added in UConn gives this team a better feel. And this ACC conference looked pretty good. I mean, I think this would make this feel a little better. 8 games, another even number of games, give you 4 non-conference games to play, and we're playing at the Bank America Stadium like they're already doing. Let's go over to the Big Ten. I filtered out Oregon. I mean, Oregon just do not fit in the Big Ten to me. Oregon, I mean, Washington could have stayed, but I didn't want to mess up the core of the Big Ten. So moving out Oregon, Washington, USC, UCLA, I filtered out all those teams to another conference to balance out the talent. This Big Ten is solid with the rise of Indiana and Iowa having a decent year. You have Minnesota and Nebraska. These are good for rivalry games. And then you have Michigan State, Michigan, Northwestern, Ohio State. This is pretty good. Leaving Rutgers in to be a solid fit for the Big Ten because I feel like they are a Big Ten team. You play 8 conference games and they already play at Lucas Oil Stadium. Let's move over to the Big 12. I think Arizona and Arizona State is a solid Big 12 team addition, added with BYU and Baylor. Also with Colorado and Coach Prime, Houston, Iowa State. I really like the feel of this Big 12 matchup. Leaving West Virginia and UCF in. This conference still looks like a potent conference to me. Okay, as you know, we're going to play 8 games, give you 4 games to schedule any opponent from any other division. Keep it fun, keep it spicy. AT&T Stadium is where they're already playing at. Let's move over to Conference USA. Now, the people in the Conference USA, they're probably going to hate me because I took a lot of the power out of this conference. But to me, it's a weaker conference, so I figured why not leave the basic teams in. Um, People who are representation of the Conference USA might not like the fact that I moved teams out, but being able to add Division Two teams in, it will go more filling in with the feel of this conference because Jacksonville State was added in for Division Two. Kennesaw State was added in from Division Two. Liberty was added in from Division Two. Sam Houston was added in from Division Two. And you have Western Kentucky, which could possibly carry this conference. Middle Tennessee can possibly carry this conference. And the fact that Liberty is having a good year, especially coming off the Hugh Freeze coaching season when he was at Liberty, giving them a pretty solid name. And then you have Louisiana Tech and FIU. So we're going to leave it at 8 games, and they're going to play at the division leader home, which means whoever wins the conference will have a home field advantage by playing at home, which will help this small conference because the team that's playing at home will likely get the most funds for winning that championship game and being able to host home field. Moving over into the independents, I kept Notre Dame in, but I didn't want them to be a lone warrior because UMass kind of don't really UMass kind of don't even fit anywhere, honestly. Massachusetts is pretty much at the top of the map, and they're like lone stars. And since there's no Northern Conference, it would be nice to have like a Northeast Conference or something if they were to add divisions in. But UMass, I would leave them as independent, or you could move them over to Conference USA. But I like to keep things at an even number of teams. It's kind of just like a pet peeve that I have. So I will leave UMass in with the FBS Independents. Moving over to the MAC, the MAC Conference. I pretty much left the MAC Conference alone because these teams all pretty much identify each other. Like they pretty much look like they belonged in the same boat. They're mid-tier teams to lower tier teams. Northern Illinois will probably be like a lower mid-tier team. Eastern Michigan and Central Michigan will probably be like a lower mid-tier team. Or you could really just say they're all lower tier teams besides Toledo. So yeah, I pretty much left the nucleus of this conference alone. Adding in with 8 conference games, and they play a 4 field already, so pretty much just left this conference alone. Now, moving over to the Mountain West is where things get really exciting. Oh boy. You got California, Hawaii, Nevada, Oklahoma State having that rivalry in conference, Oregon, San Jose State, Stanford, USC, UNLV, UCLA, Texas, Utah, and Washington, bringing the Mountain West Conference to a powerhouse, but also balancing the league out so certain conferences is not heavily overpowered, which creates a balance in the college football playoff system. Now, as you know, adding Cal, because they just did not fit in the ACC to me. They just do not look like an ACC team to me. I'm sorry. And I'm talking about real life. Cal just is like an odd team out. The ACC is pretty much predominantly an Eastern Conference. And I believe that Cal just sticks out. I mean, like, the travel mileage is crazy. But having Cal in the Mountain West restores power to the Mountain West Conference. Hawaii is pretty much like they're like pretty much like an additive. The reason why I added Cal to Mountain West is because I'm pretty sure they're not going to want to return to the Pac-12. We're pretty sure that's never going to happen. So I added them to the Mountain West to create a balance. Hawaii and Nevada are filler ends, but it's to pretty much keep the conference at 10 games maximum or more. So, I mean, 10 teams maximum of more. So adding in Hawaii and Nevada is pretty much like filler teams. But it kind of keeps the stability of this conference above water. Adding in Oklahoma, I don't really like the addition to Oklahoma and Texas to the SEC, as I feel like it messes up the SEC nucleus. Adding Oklahoma and Texas to the Mountain West will keep that Red River rivalry going, but also keep it going in a new conference, adding a powerhouse to the Mountain West and to the Western conferences. So adding adding Oklahoma and Texas to this conference will also be a big boost in revenue, TV ratings, and will also help the conference out. Adding Oklahoma State was an addition because I had to get rid of somebody in the Big 12, and they kind of was like the only team that just stood out to me that did not fit in. Oklahoma State was not a team that I would recommend putting in the Big 12, so I moved them over to the Mountain West. And it will be to restore their rivalry with Oklahoma so they can meet in conference and possibly in a championship game. Adding Oregon to this conference, adding a powerhouse to the Mountain West Conference, equaling out the power. I didn't really like Oregon in the Big Ten. I just feel like that is not a fit. Oregon is a Western team. Also, they kind of like an oddly fit team in the Big Ten. And I just feel like Oregon just fits better with the Mountain West. And they are a mirror image to Cal and Oklahoma and Stanford. San Jose State, they chose to stay with Nevada and Hawaii. San Jose State, I feel like will be another filler in team, but they will also be a competitive team in years to come. Adding in Stanford, these teams will not return to the Pac-12 ever. It's the reason why they left. But adding them to the Mountain West definitely adds power to the conference, as money, as revenue, TV ratings. I mean, it restores the conference to a legit contender division. So I really like this. Adding Texas is the same thing. Texas, they're a powerhouse school. I really don't like the fit of them being in the SEC since we already have a Texas team in Texas A&M. I feel like Texas A&M fits better in the SEC than Texas do. I mean, just looking at it from a outside standpoint, Texas just kind of don't really just fit with the SEC to me. I mean, it's odd adding Texas and Oklahoma in to me. So I put them over here with UCLA, also another big conference, big team, restore that USC UCLA rivalry within conference, and added revenue, ratings, and a whole lot of talent to this division. UNLV, another decent team, which will be like a filler-in team with San Jose State, Nevada, Hawaii, and Oklahoma State. So that would be a good addition to this conference. Utah is a team that's complaining about being in the Big 12. They didn't really feel like they were taking a lot of shots at the Big 12 and the referees. So I figured, hey, Big 12 going to be like, well, since you don't like what we got going on, get up out of here and go to the Mountain West Conference. Good addition for the Mountain West Conference. Adding in Utah, I really like this. It's a great fit. And oh boy, this will be a fun conference to play in. Also with Washington. Washington is like another team that I just like did not fit in the Big Ten. I mean, well, actually, Big Ten, Washington is a team that could fit in the Big Ten, but I just wanted to balance out this conference so that you can have at least 12 to 14 teams adding in a powerhouse in the Mountain West. I really like this lineup. I'm telling you, 4, 8, 12, 14. They're going to play 8 division games. and they're gonna play in SoFi Stadium, bringing in revenue, ratings, TV ratings to the conference. Big shakeup for the division and the college football playoffs. I'm gonna love seeing this play out. In the Pac-12, also we're gonna have Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, Utah State, and San Diego State. All of these are teams that were recently added to the Pac-12. Boise, Colorado State, Fresno State, San Diego State, and Utah State was all added to the Pac-12 recently. So they are going to debut, I think, in 2025 for the Pac-12, because the Pac-12 has to get to 12 teams. So I didn't get the Pac-12 to add any power teams in, but we do got 4, 8, 12 teams in, and this is a pretty solid filler in, being based on the teams that they added. By them adding Boise. Boise had a pretty good year, pretty good team. So adding them would be like some kind of stability for the conference to build on. And them adding Colorado State, Fresno State, San Diego State, and Utah State was kind of just filler ends for the conference. So since they already had Washington State and Oregon State, I feel like these teams kind of mimic the teams that are already in here. Adding University of Texas San Antonio Roadrunners, I really feel like this team didn't really fit the All-American Conference. So by moving them, I replaced the UTSA teams with the Air Force team. Being the Air Force kind of don't fit in with this nucleus right here. So adding in UTSA will be another good team to add in. Also with another Texas team being UTEP, University of Texas El Paso. I feel like Texas San Antonio will be a good addition for UTEP. Also adding in Utah State. Like I said, in real life, Utah State was added along with San Diego State, Fresno State, Colorado State, Boise State, and New Mexico. I kind of added in New Mexico and New Mexico State because it pretty much goes with the core nucleus of this conference of these teams. I feel like all these are lower to mid-tier teams, and the conference is not pretty much overpowered. It's actually balanced. So I like this nucleus right here, and they got to 12 teams like the conference need. They're gonna play 8 games, and they're still going to be in Allegiant Stadium. So I really like this. With the SEC, I brought the divisions back, and I realigned the conferences to be back east and west. I think I probably would have preferred west to be on this side, but it doesn't matter. Alabama, Arkansas, Auburn, LSU, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Texas A&M will be in the west like they were before. And in the east, you're going to have Georgia, Florida, Kentucky, Missouri, Tennessee, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt. I really like this, and bringing back the 8 conference games, and they will stay in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I really love this right here because I miss when the SEC used to be like this. Perfect. With the Sun Belt, I pretty much left the Sun Belt alone. I didn't touch it at all. It probably would have been nice to swap out teams to put UAB and Jacksonville State in here. It probably would have been nice to bring FIU and FAU back and filter out these teams. Old Dominion, Marshall, and James Madison. It probably would have been nice to filter out these 3 and bring back FAU, FIU. It probably would have been nice to filter out probably App State or Coastal Carolina and bring back UAB and teams like that. But I pretty much left it alone for the most part. Never touching the West. Louisiana, Arkansas State, South Alabama, Southern Miss, Troy, Texas State, not Texas, Louisiana Monroe. This pretty much is going to stay together. These Georgia teams will stay. If you want, you can move out these three teams: Marshall, James Madison, Old Dominion, and come over to Conference USA and add in FIU, Middle Tennessee State, Jackson State, or you can come over here to the American Conference and add in UAB again, or Florida Atlantic. But I pretty much don't want to touch this conference right here. I don't want to touch this conference at all, but it would be nice to have Florida Atlantic back and have UAB back. Now, if you wanted to, you can come over here and add FIU, Middle Tennessee State, teams like Troy over there to kind of restore rivalries, but then South Alabama will be kind of out of it. I mean, you could dumb the Sun Belt down to 8 teams and just add a powerhouse to the All-American. But I pretty much like this conference right here as it is. But if you want to, you could do that. For the people who like Troy, teams like Troy, I'm a big Troy fan. Hometown state, Alabama, hometown city, Troy. South Alabama is also hometown state. They're from Alabama. So if you want to add these two in to the All-American Conference to go against UAB, Florida Atlantic, you could do so. But I think the Sun Belt is good as is, having these teams in the nucleus. If you want, you can filter out these 3 teams because they don't really feel like a Sun Belt team to me. Like I said, if you want to take Old Dominion, Marshall, James Madison, and just come over here to Conference USA, swap them out with Middle Tennessee, Jacksonville State, and Florida International, you could do that. But I pretty much would just leave these alone. For the most part, I didn't really want to just shake up the league too much. But like I said, if you want to just keep it realistic, Middle Tennessee, Jacksonville State, FIU, yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it that I would do, because no team over here I would touch. I wouldn't move anybody out of here. I wouldn't move anybody out of here. If you want, you could just come over here and move Florida Atlantic and UAB, like I said. Create a powerhouse in the Sun Belt. Swap them out with these 3 teams. James Madison and Old Dominion probably would be more like a Conference USA type team, but you can bring them to the American Conference looking at the nucleus of this conference of what they already have, like Rice, Temple, East Carolina, Charlotte, teams like that. But Memphis and Tulane really are the only 2 powerhouses in this conference beside USF and UAB. So yeah, if I don't think UAB would want to leave. As in real life, they said they want to stay in the American Conference. Every team said they wanted to stay in the American Conference and build up in the American Conference. So the reason why I moved Texas San Antonio, because I wanted to build the Mountain West, like I said, and add an Air Force over here to play with Army and Navy. And I really like that nucleus, as I feel like these teams, I added them to the Pac-12, because I feel like they fit more over here than they do in the AAC. So yeah, with Sun Belt, I kept the nucleus together. App State is a North Carolina, I think they're North Carolina, Appalachian State. So they pretty much go with the Carolinas, and then you got the Georgias, and you got the Alabamas, um, then you got the Louisiana Monroe, Louisiana Cajuns, and Southern Miss is pretty much just by itself. Mississippi, Arkansas, pretty much by itself. Um, if I'm not mistaken, these three are Virginia schools. They are Virginia schools. Yeah, they are Virginia schools. Um, so if you want to add them over to the Conference USA and swap them for Florida International, Middle Tennessee State, possibly Louisiana Tech if you want, but I think Louisiana Tech should stay in Conference USA. You can add in Jacksonville State, Florida International, or Middle Tennessee State, or maybe Western Kentucky. Liberty, I feel like they should stay put, or you could possibly move them to the AAC. It's up to you. Whatever you do. But I just wanted to share this with y'all. Also 8 teams, 8 conference games, and I added them to the Camping World Stadium, which I think is in Orlando. So that would be good for the division as well. If you have any other ideas, please comment it below. Tell me what you would do, how you would spice it up, and I just want to see the feedback on this video.